Listen up, Star Warriors. This has been a day for Rian Johnson comments, and he has made some more. So I wanted to save a video for this certain set of statements he's made, so I didn't include them in my last video. But they are very interesting, and once again, they are not to be taken at face value. At least that is my opinion of them, and I'm going to tell you why I think they are bogus statements. So, let's jump right into Rian Johnson's statement. The heading for this part of the article is, Luke and Co.'s expanded force powers had to compete with what we've seen before. So, basically what we're going to be talking about is why everyone in The Last Jedi who was able to use the Force are so much more powerful than any of the other films. And he's going to try and justify that decision. And it goes as follows. The likes of Leia, Luke, and Snoke all display incredible Force powers in the film. Johnson acknowledges that this was something he wanted to tackle. Now, he's not going to allude to any of what I'm about to say, but it seems obvious to me that he wanted to tackle expanding the abilities of Force-sensitive people because, well, there's Marvel out there and there's DC movies out there, you know, and they've got superheroes flying around and jumping around and shooting all kinds of crap out of their hands and their mouth and their eyes and stuff like that. That's my opinion of what we're going to be talking about here, without him having to say it. But here's a quote from Johnson. It was twofold, Johnson explains. First of all, it's tough. Because at this point between The Force Awakens and even the video games, the level of Force powers has slowly come up. I feel like we still offered a modicum of restraint, because we didn't have anyone pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky. Now, if you're not familiar with what he's referencing right there, he's talking about the video game / computer game, The Force Unleashed, wherein the main character pulls a Star Destroyer out of the sky. Now, at some point, that game was made canon. It was canonized by George Lucas. Then they made a second game, which I do not believe is canon. I mean, I'm not really sure on the status of that game at the moment, but I don't believe the second game is canon, and by now, the first game may have been decanonized, which I think would be good for the sake of Star Wars, but who knows. The essence of what he's saying here is, look over there, these people did way worse than I did. As if that's an excuse for bad decisions he made. But let's carry on with what he says. And believe me, it came up when Luke came out onto the field. I was like, should he wave his hand and all the walkers blow off like dust? He would have to be stupid to be like that. And I'm not saying that for the reason you think. Should he wave his hand and all the walkers blow off? Consider what that would cause to happen in the narrative, the wider narrative of this story. Kylo Ren isn't one of those walkers. Are you really going to have me believe that Luke is going to wave his hand and blow away all the walkers? There's going to obviously be a huge wreck afterwards, and that Kylo Ren is going to walk out of it unscathed to fight Luke Skywalker. At that point, I'm done. At that point, just call it a Marvel movie, you know? It's not like I wasn't done before then. I was done way before then, but I'm just trying to illustrate how stupid his way of thinking is. The things that are in there that are Force moments largely came out of the dramatic moments. But the Leia thing is an interesting example, and here he's talking about Leia flying through space. Carrying on, it's something that Kathy kept bringing up. Okay, now here he's going to put it on Kathy, and I hate to defend Kathy Kennedy here. I hate to do it. I do not want to do that. But according to what he's going to divulge right now, this is not her fault. It's something that Kathy kept bringing up, which I thought was interesting. She said, I've always been intrigued by what Luke says to Leia in Jedi, in that she has the power inside her also. And why haven't we seen that? Okay, That's Kathy Kennedy's quote right there. That's the entirety of her quote. That's entirely what she said to him. And the idea behind Leia's big moment was that it was not incredibly powerful. This is Rian Johnson's statement right there. Leia's big moment where she flew through space was not incredibly powerful. I guess because it's not like pulling a Star Destroyer out of orbit. Because she's in space and that doesn't offer much resistance. How has he ever been in space? So we're talking about a guy he's never done any of the stuff he's trying to tell you is easy. It doesn't take much to pull her back in. Really. Now, most of my audience, most of you guys have seen episode 3. You've seen the beginning of episode 3, the Battle of Coruscant, okay? And Anakin's in a starfighter, Obi-Wan's in a starfighter, and a bunch of clones are in starfighters with them. And one of the clone starfighters pilots gets into trouble. I think his name was R4, or his call sign was R4. Probably Red 4 or something like that. And he gets blown out of his ship. His ship gets blown up, and he goes tumbling back through space past Obi-Wan and Anakin's, and they watch him go. He is back there. He's tumbling back. It's not like he's staying in one spot. He's in an endless tumble, and you're going to tell me that there's no resistance to that. That Leia got blown out of the bridge of her flagship, and eventually she just stopped moving. At what point have you ever seen anything in space where someone loses control of their self, or they lose control of an object in space and it just stops moving and sits in one spot for, in any length of time? No, there's gravity, there's gravitational pull in space. That's why the solar system doesn't fly out of control. Things will be pulling on Leia. Not to mention that the impact alone would have started her on an endless journey through the dark depths of the Black Sea. Let's carry on with this guy's bullshit, though. And that's the idea behind Leia's big moments, was that it was not incredibly powerful because she's in space and that doesn't offer much resistance. It doesn't take much to pull her back in, but also that it's instinctual. It's like when you hear parents that have a toddler trapped under a car and they lift the car up with Hulk strength. The idea that it's not going to end today, that she's not finished yet. Oh, this is so bad. This guy is grasping at straws for dear life. So he's going to compare a fully unconscious Leia who should be tumbling through space to a fully conscious woman who lifts a car to save her trapped child. Leia wasn't trying to save anyone else. She was trying to save herself. And, if there are very rarely any instances of Herculean strength where people, use to save themselves from mortal danger. I'm not going to make any comments on, people using it to save other people, but this guy is laughable. They really need like a PR agent to do all of his interviews for him. Maybe someone who understands Star Wars, maybe someone who understands fiction in general and writing and stuff like that, because he's really, really sad. His thought process is all over the place and doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it just goes to follow. This guy, he started out his career making short films. I don't know what the budget was on them, but then he got into actually, films, Hollywood films, and he started off with like a budget of $20 million. And then his next film, he went to a budget of $30 million. And then all of a sudden he went to a budget of $200 million, That's a yes man. There's no way any reputable business person is going to make a decision to hire some guy who has never worked at that level, anywhere near that level. for a $200 million movie. But tell me what you guys think about his Marvel superhero Jedi. And as always, if you're listening, you are the new rebellion. 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 You are the